till Skype starts recording.
Alright.
Cool, so this is the NWC Show, episode 33, and if you would like to introduce yourself.
I'm Scott Reid, and I'm the writer and producer for Insane Championship Wrestling.
Man, thanks for coming on the show. Honestly, I've been getting a lot of you ICW guys on the show. And everybody's been sound, so it's pretty cool to get somebody from like the other side of the kind of cutting on. But first question we always start these ways, it's the same question, is what got you into wrestling? What was that moment you were like, this is my gig, my jam?
It was, so when I was younger, round about where we stayed, like, we were skins, we didn't have Sky, I'd never seen wrestling in my life. And there was a boy who lived up the stairs, he was maybe like 2 years older than me, and we kind of hung about with him, and he had the VHSs. So just, he got talking about wrestling one day, I'd never seen it, and he gave me In Your House Final Four, and I watched that. Now, I probably watched the whole video, like one eye, you're a wee guy, you're kind of doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the main event, was Bret Hart versus Austin versus Vader versus Undertaker, and there's a moment I just remember, and it's when Vader lifts a chair up and the Undertaker kicked it into his face, and you get the shot, and it was all, his eye was all burst open, so he's bleeding to his eye, and you're a wee guy, and I seen that, and I just went, whoa, hold on a minute, it's incredible. So for that day, I was the world's biggest Undertaker fan, and I was a wrestling fan, and then I basically went back to this boy and went, what else have you got here? And I got WrestleMania 14, I got King of the Ring, everything he could give me. And for there, just snowballed, and that was it. But
I was pretty much the same. It was like a VHS, like I was at the Forge Market, and there was a bunch of VHSs, like WCW, WWF, so I got 3 of them, and it was like 1999, around about that time, and I just remember putting it on, quite similar, just like watching it, but like doing other things, and then just standing like, this is insane, like, and I just was like right into it from that day. But I think everybody kind of around about that time, because Sky, NTL and stuff, that was a little bit dear, then they seemed to get like a deal in the early 2000s that everybody got Sky and NTL. But it was weird being a wrestling fan in the UK back then, because you're kind of dealing with time difference. It was kind of only on Sky One on a Saturday morning, you had WCW on a Saturday night and stuff like that, which was weird to kind of.
I had a wee bit though, because we didn't have Sky in the house, but my dad ran a sports centre in Rock Hill for a while, so they had the football, they had Sky Sports, but he would take me to work with him, and I'd just hang about this sports centre all day. So like on a Friday they would show Raw, but I would have to kind of watch it when the bar was empty, because people were doing playing football. So he was like, right, you can watch Raw for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then the next football team would come in, so he'd stick on the football, and I'd be raging because I was like, I don't watch football, I watch wrestling. So I got wee chunks of it and stuff. And then I would never go to Sky until I was a lot older, maybe like 14 or something like that. So I missed the whole era of watching it religiously on Sky and stuff. But since then, I've been watching it religiously about every week.
I mean, I used to go to my friend's house, and his dad used to like record Raw, the WCW and stuff like that, and then we would watch it. We'd go up, play N64, shows how old am I, play N64 and watch like the WCW. But his mum hated wrestling, so anytime he came in, he'd like change it out to like a cartoon or something, and then she would leave, and then it would come back on, and it was like I just love that kind of going back to that time, because it brings those feelings back for me as well. But I think a lot of people just didn't know what wrestling was back then as well, which was quite fun. Now when you look back and you're like, I wouldn't show my kids the Attitude Era stuff, but I get what they're kind of coming with. So how long have you kind of been doing what you've been doing? How long have you been in the wrestling business?
All in all, I'd say about 7-8 years for my very first thing I ever done. Mm-hmm. But that's changed through the years a lot. Like I came in starting writing for a magazine that ICW was doing, and it just kind of progressed from there. So I'd say maybe since about Fear and Loathing, what was it, maybe 7 or 8, the Grado and Drew match probably, Fear and Loathing 8, was when I started kind of not contributing to the booking, but more the production side, the videos and stuff like that. And then going into about the first Hydro show was when I started having any kind of input in the stories, but even then it was very limited. I'd been about learning stuff at that point, but that was the first kind of show that creatively, no, tell a lie, Shug's House Party before that, it was the Black Label versus Team ICW, when Sha turned face and joined ICW. That was the first show that my ears were put in. So from there on, and then it's progressed, and now I'm like, I'm covering the whole show with gals and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was younger, I started wrestling. I went to wrestling training and that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. But whoever's listening to this podcast probably heard this story like 1,000 times. But I broke my neck, so I had to leave wrestling, and I went, and that was all. I was balls deep right in it. That was all I was doing, and then I pure went in a huff with wrestling for ages, and it included like ICW and stuff like that. I was just like, I can't watch any of this because it was like I couldn't do it anymore. But obviously, getting a bit older, realising that I've been watching it all the time. I set up the YouTube channel, and I just love it. It's like the best thing ever. And I'm more interested in the kind of back office kind of side of stuff, because being older, I'm a businessman and stuff like that, instead of from being young, just being like, I want to be in the ring and wrestle and make a title myself. But now I'm more respectable, kind of, maybe, if you But so what kind of got you excited about the kind of the back office side of stuff? What's something that really excites you about doing that? Is it seeing the story play out that you've wrote and stuff like that?
I was weird, so I don't really know exactly what it was, but everybody always read the wrestling magazines when they were younger, and I loved that. I loved that aspect of, not so much the kind of dirt sheet aspect of this guy said this backstage and they're fighting back. It wasn't even really a thing. It was more just understanding. I just took a liking to the idea of how did they get to this point? Like, how did they build WrestleMania 17? Like, that excited me, as like, that must be such a procedure to do that. Like, if you know you've got Rock Austin a year from now, how do you drag that out for a year and build to that match, and he's the best show ever? You know what I mean? It's I don't know, it just stuck with me. And then when I first seen a British wrestling show was an ICW show. Went and I done the same. I went, I'm going to be a wrestler. I took one class, couldn't walk for a week, and I went, I've no interest in doing this, because I've never been sporty at all, and athletic in any way, shape or form, and I done it and just went, ah. But I felt like I still wanted to do something in it, and I felt like I could do something in it. So that was really it, and then I just kind of always took opportunities that have been given to me, be it a magazine or taking photos or just anything, and from there it just kind of snowballed into what I'm doing now. But yeah, now I love it. Now I love the aspect of, like you say, seeing a story play out. Something that you've got in your head for point A, and it never goes point A to point B. It's always point A to point Z, going like that. But but it's a lot of fun, and it's very, very satisfying when even if something goes completely ski whiff and comes to a cool outcome, it's still cool to just see everything kind of come to fruition.
I could imagine, man. But every time I talk to you guys, I start getting that itch, like I'm like, I kind of want to get back into the ring and stuff like that, but my injuries prevent me. And then I'm like, how do I get into like the backside of stuff? Because like I've been away for it for so long. But it was like the YouTube channel day, it's scratching my itch for a little time. I know in maybe like a year, or when COVID's away, I start going to shows, I'm going to be like, I need to do something, like start doing something. But it's like, you'll know as well, like if you take like a holiday from doing like booting, or if you get away for it for a little bit, you start getting that like feeling of, I need to get back to this.
Aye, I mean, I've been away since I've probably been doing this job. I've had two kind of big holidays. I went to WrestleMania 4 years ago for Orlando, and then I went to Tokyo last year. And both times I've been away, we've had big shows coming up. When I was in Orlando, we had Barrymania 4 coming up. When I was in Tokyo, with the Square Go coming up. And you're trying to be on holiday, but I'm still in the back of my head going, right, I need to be on the ball. It's even worse in Tokyo though, because my night time is the morning here. So I was like waking up in the morning to a whole day's worth of, right, here's what's happening, getting to Square Go, and I'm like, 8 in the morning, texting everybody, like, okay, blah, 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 blah. And then the same in Orlando. It was even worse though, because when I was in Orlando, I seen Drew. Like I went to see him on Friday. I went to NXT the next day, and he was announced as being signed by NXT, but he was due to be on Barrymania 4. So we literally had to come up with a new plan for Drew. Dallas kind of covered it, but I'm still getting the updates in Orlando, and I'm going, what's happening? He's got, it's fine, I've got it, but I'm still sitting going, oh, what's happening? We've got to change this. So you never really get a break for it. It's always in the back of your mind, one way or another.
No, man, 100%. I've got some clients in Japan, and I hate, like, if something goes wrong and you wake up in the morning to like thousands of text messages, you're like, oh, you could have just, the time difference is there. You could have just send me an email and I'll get to it in the morning. It's always like 50 WhatsApp messages, and you're like, oh, why did I've asked you to email me easily. It's no It's not a hard thing. But I could
No.
only imagine if you're on the other side, like you're in like a land or something, it's all nice, chilling, and you're like, oh Jesus, I can't just relax, try to get a tan, and you're just shaking with nerves.
Aye, totally.
But I mean, so it's just, I think it's cool to kind of get somebody on like the back office kind of side of stuff instead of from like the kind of wrestling side. What's your kind of perspective of like the WWE Network stuff that ICW is doing just now? Are you loving it? Are you learning a lot with it? Are you kind of...
It's so cool. It's not something that we ever really. I will say it's been in the works for ages, like a good few years. But before that point, it was never really something that MD kind of thought about because you wouldn't. It's not like you're running a venue. Like eventually, if you work hard enough, you can run this venue. But there was never anything on the WWE Network that wasn't WWE. So it was never really in MD's thoughts that it would be a situation that happened. And then it came about, and I mean, it was probably the worst kept secret in British wrestling because it was on every doc sheet every 6 months that it's coming this time, and the whole time you're working on it, but we've got to pretend it's not it's not happening. But it's so that was hard, but also it was a lot of work. But obviously it never went anywhere for the longest time. It was getting worked on. So some of the boys who knew about it are going, when's this is this happening? And I'm going, it's definitely happened, just give me another 6 months. But really it was so out of control. But then when it did eventually all again, I get lined up and everything started happening. It was really, really cool. The response has been brilliant. The only thing I think that was kind of weird at first was that we started with an old show. It was like Shug's Party went on. But obviously that was mid-pandemic. So we kind of started, but we didn't, because I would have loved to have started with brand new content. Like I would have loved to have done a show where we went, okay, this first show is the first night we're taping for the network. So the crowd would have been super hot for that. But I just know how it happened. But when it came to pass that we could start running the tapings, that was really cool because it was like, right, we can start fresh, we can hit the restart button with a lot of things and really go in with a clear kind of mindset on this new version of the show, I suppose. It's been hard. It's been very hard because you're taping so differently with the way we're having to deal with COVID protocols and stuff. So it's been a learning curve, and I can't wait to be running one show a day. It's going to be amazing. But other than that, it's actually been a really cool experience. It's taught us a lot on how to make things a lot more streamlined, I guess you would say, like a lot how to run a bit more efficiently. Plus, it gave people a lot of cool opportunities because a lot of people are signed and stuff like that, and there's a lot of holes in the roster, so it was time to fill them with new talent. And for the off, we said if we get 2 or 3 new talent who we can go there, they've got a place here, great. And we've ended up with 10 or 12, or I mean, we've really just went brilliant, the whole lot of them. So, it's been good. It's been a lot of fun, hard but fun.
No, it's really fun watching it as well, because I remember ICW being in the Maryhill community halls when there was like, I mean, it was like a daytime show. There was like 3 people there. It was like me, my friend, and like somebody else. And I was sure the other person was like one of the wife of like the wrestlers that were in the show. And it was like so awkward to watch because it was like so quiet. Obviously, COVID has changed that back, but like when it was people could have been there, it was like so awkward. But then seeing how far they've came, like between the hydro, them being on the network, and it's like it's such a cool way to see how Scottish wrestling has like progressed so much. Especially when I started training, it was in somewhere in Linwood in a garage, middle of nowhere. Like there was nobody there. Like, and then now they've got like for like fancy training places and stuff. And you're like, this is really cool. But back when I was there, I mean, like it was a garage in the middle of nowhere, and it was like one toilet, no door. You got changed in the middle of and just there, it was like a ring that they used for shows, like the SWA used to use for the show. If they had a show that weekend, there wasn't any training. It was just, they were like, oh, we're away up in Aberdeen, there's no training for the next like 2 days. This doesn't make any sense. So like, you can come along and just train in the mats if you want. We don't know what you're doing, but it's so cool to see how far it's came, and I feel kind of like it's such a cool thing for Scotland to see as well. As much as people are saying professional wrestling's kind of dying out globally a little bit, I feel it's everywhere in Scotland at the minute. It's literally.
I think just in general wrestling, like it's easy to look at it and go it's dying. I think right now it exists in a world where everything's changing. Back in the day, it was about ratings and TV ratings and Monday Night Wars and all that. That's not the world we live in anymore. It's an age of content. People, got Netflix. Nobody watches the telly now. Nobody sits like my dad would get the paper and mark on the paper. 7 o'clock, I'm watching that. Nobody does that anymore. You're watching stuff when you want to watch it. It's an age of content, so it's different. Wrestling as a whole is changing. You've got New Japan World, the network. You've got Impact. There's just all sorts of stuff, and it's just a different world we live in. But I mean, I'm very happy with the stuff we've been putting out. It's stuff that I'm very happy to say is out there for people to see. Like I'd hate to feel like we'd just done it because we had to, and then look back on it and went, oh, this is awful. Like I've really enjoyed watching the episodes back. So it's been quite satisfying because, like I've said before on other kind of shows and stuff, like when we started doing these, you just get so full into it because we need to get going, boom, that's us. And when you're 6 weeks into your tapings, you start to go, I mean, is this good? Like, because I've not watched it. I've watched stuff out of sync. I've watched people come in on one day and they film 6 weeks worth of stuff, and you've kind of not seen it as a full package. So I'm sitting going, is this even decent? Is it going to come the way we want it to come? And blah, blah, blah. And then when you see it and it was good, I was like, right, thank God. Thank you. It was good. So it's been very, very cool. I think just for British wrestling as a whole, it's especially the Peacock thing. I mean, that's available to 33 million people in America. It's insane numbers. I mean, you can't argue with that. I don't care who you are. So,
I know, man. That's more than the whole population of Scotland. Do you know what I mean? Which is insane. But like you says, it's something that I always tell people as well. Like, who's sitting watching TV? Like, I don't even know if I've got like a TV aerial plugged into my TV because I don't watch TV. I literally don't watch it at all. Most people watch stuff on social media, networks, Netflix, Amazon, whatever it is, because TV's pretty much like the radio now. Like nobody watches it anymore, and nobody really listens to the radio unless I don't know when you would listen to the radio. I thought something would come to me there, but it didn't. I think it's really cool to get the ICW stuff is so good to watch. I watch it. It's the only show that I don't really review on my channel, and I don't know why. I think it's because I've had so many of the guys on, and I'm like, I don't want to like, if they have a bad match, like tear it apart or something. I'm like, no, I'll just leave it because I don't want to like then come to an ICW show and just start telling me apart. So I was like, no, I'll just leave it. But so the negative part of the show that we always ask. This is only negative part. We can keep the rest positive. Is what do you not like about today's wrestling world community? What do you not like about today's wrestling?
Well, I mean, if I really thought about it, I could probably go off on one, but there's bits and pieces. I think from something that annoys me about people sometimes within wrestling is that it's just me personally. I pine for a bit of kayfabe. I love that era where things can be made to feel a bit more real. And at the end of the day, it was when wrestling was more profitable and stuff from especially like independence, was in the 80s when everybody believed it was real. I understand that's never going to come back. The genie is out the bottle, but you don't need to make everybody aware that the genie exists. You know what I mean? It's like the one that really kind of got to me was it was Jericho Omega 2, I think, at AEW, something like that. They done the match, and then the next day put out a podcast talking to each other that they recorded the day before the match. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. Like I say, the curtain's been pulled back, but it annoyed me. I was just like, you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, try and keep a bit of mystery. And there was also an AEW thing where they had Moxley like get spiked in the eye. It was like a gruesome segment, and I remember seeing it and going, that's really, really cool, and it's a bit edgy, especially in today's world of wrestling. And then that night, Tony Khan put an interview online talking about the TV executives said it was okay to do that. And I'm going, why do we need to know about the TV executives? Just say that it happened. Make it seem like it was real. Like, the greatest wrestling moments nowadays are when people for a wee second go, is that real? Was that supposed to happen? And if you just catch them for a second, and I think nobody really appreciates that anymore. I sound like this pure old veteran, as if like it was better than my day, because no, but it's just something that winds me up. It does. I hate it, and it's something I try and speak to people in a certain, especially the younger folks just now, like, protect your brand a wee bit. You don't need to tell everybody everything. You don't need to put your entire life on Facebook and Twitter. You don't need to tweet somebody that you're feuding with in ICW talking about PlayStation games. talk to them privately. You don't need to publicly say, "All right, mate, how you doing?" Because you're just killing everything you do. Like for me, if I'm booking something, if I'm booking a big match at Shug's Party, I don't want the two guys in that match online talking to each other their favourite Ben and Jerry's. Then I'm sitting going, how am I supposed to do it? It's useless. So just I think from that standpoint, I'd like people to maybe just protect their brand a wee bit more. With fans, I'd say maybe like don't worry about things you don't need to worry about. And what I mean by that is like you don't like as a fan you don't need to worry about how somebody's being booked. You don't need to sit on Monday night and go, he was buried on Raw, because you don't know where that story's going. Just watch it for what it is. I think I watched Tiger's interview with you and he said the same thing. The Avengers lost. If you watch Daniel Bryan going to WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan got battered for about 3 months. And every week, Triple H would come out and smash him and ruin his life and blah, blah. And then I'm sure at that point, probably somebody was sitting going, Daniel Bryan's getting buried. But when he got to WrestleMania 30 and he beat Triple H and then he beat Randy Orton and Batista, that reaction was so big. Don't worry about these wee things that are part of a story. Don't worry about how somebody's being treated by the booking team. Because at the end of the day, you don't know where that story's going. Enjoy the ride of wrestling. I've tweeted this a few times. Don't read dirt sheets. Dirt sheets ruin everything for you. As a fan, you will enjoy wrestling now if you don't read. Massive WrestleMania match plans changed. Just watch the WrestleMania match.
Man, I totally agree with you on both the points there. I think social media is such a huge thing in today's market. Why can they not just like have your personal social media, have your friends and all that kind of stuff on there? But why can you not have like, obviously, it's like a business page. You don't see a restaurant posting like, "Oh, I'm out with my friends tonight." They keep it professional. That's what they can do. I think it would look better. But I get what you mean. Like when you see people posting like, I don't know, they're in a feud with somebody and they're like, "Oh, you coming on Xbox tonight?" You're like, "Oh, why did you just do that? You've just ruined everything." Like the whole story can just stop just now. I've got a few guys coming on the podcast later in the year because they're being like a heel just now, and they're like, "Oh, I'm being a heel just now. I want to keep it," and I'm like, "That's great. You get back in touch with me when you want to be on. You're literally saving wrestling for me. I love this bit." But I get what you mean with fans as well. Like don't stress stuff. Like my whole point of my channel is obviously to review stuff, but like I like wrestling. I'll watch whatever it is. I understand that booking takes a long time. Like if you're watching a movie 2.5 hours or 2 hours, whatever it is, and you're not sitting there at the very start. I wonder how the end's going to go. Like you're not already trying to book the end at the start of the movie. Wrestling's a longer movie. It can be 3, 4, 5 months. Just let it play out. Stop stressing about it.
Ryan, like sometimes booking teams will get it wrong. We've not always knocked it into a bullseye every time. WWE will do the same, whatever. Like, but just at least see where it goes before you worry about things and just chill, enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And see if you really don't enjoy it, honestly, just go watch something else. And I want everybody to watch wrestling. See if you genuinely don't like it. There's plenty of other things for you to go do.
Man, there's sometimes that when, like on Twitter especially, you read it and you're like, do you even like wrestling? Like, you're just every single thing, you're like just slating it. It's like, why are you watching this if it's getting you so angry? Just don't watch it. Like
a wee while ago, I kind of catch myself a wee bit with it because I always say, for every 10 good comments, you'll notice the bad one. You'll instantly zone in and go, my God, they hated this angle you done and blah, blah, blah. But in the grand scheme, people love wrestling. People who talk about wrestling love wrestling. And see if somebody wants to moan, it's like anything, movies, music, the football, whatever. There'll be somebody who's got a negative reaction to something. So you try not to sweat it too much, but it's just the biggest thing I say. Just try and enjoy it. It's fun. It's a great time.
I mean, I like wrestling no matter what it is. I've always liked it, even when I fell out of love with it a wee bit. I'd be the person who'd be in looking at the DVDs, like just no, I'm not going to buy it. I don't want to watch it. But like when I see people, I'm like, why are you even watching this if you're just going to like slate it or moan at it? Or I know everybody's got their own opinion. They can have their own opinion. That's cool, but just calm down a wee bit with this the slating. I know what you mean about the comments, like. When I was kind of first starting the channel, somebody was always used to comment because I had get really bad hay fever. Somebody used to always comment like, "You need to like change your diet and stuff like that." And I'm like, I live in Scotland today, for example. It was sunny and then it started snowing. like, and then it went cloudy, then sunny, and then snowed again. That makes no sense for a normal climate. That's why I have hay fever. And this guy used to just slate me, and then he'd be like, "You're bald" and stuff. And I'm like, I know I'm bald. This is so annoying. But then I was like, these people are just going to call me bald no matter what, because
they're always going to say something against us. It makes us aye.
I know. I made a video and I was like, you know what? I'm bald. I've got like one of my eyes hang down lower and stuff like that. Somebody commented and were like, "You've just like slated yourself," and I've never had a negative comment since then. So that's pretty cool. But no man, I get what you mean with like the booking and stuff like that. It's a long term kind of thing. Like for you guys, especially, usually the guys writing it, it must be like he's write something, he's go online and somebody's like, "Why are you even doing this?" Like the ICW Bard when it was like. I went to the comments for that, because I like going to the comments to read the negative ones, because it's quite funny watching people like lose their head and people are like, "This has already been done, TNA lockdown," and I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Just comparing it to something totally different.
I mean, that was something that we had already kind of preempted, but you're like, at the end of the day, it's that like, well, we're in a situation where we're filming wrestling in a big empty unit. I could give you like 45 episodes of just that, or to at least try and jazz it up and give you something to watch that's a bit interesting. And see if that means that it's a bit like TNA lockdown. I can live with that. That to me is not the end of the world, you know what I mean? But people instantly jumped on it. But then there was people going, well, what difference does it make if it's TNA lockdown or ICW Bard? It's 5 steel cage matches, that's really cool. So like I say, for every one bad comment, there was 5 going, this is brilliant, this is a cool idea, you know what I mean? And we preempted it, but I mean, I loved that show. I was really happy with Bard. It was cool walking in that day because, as I say, we taped to that point like something like 20 episodes or something, and the set looked great. But when I walked in that day and the cage was up and stuff, and I seen it all lit up, it was cool. It was a nice wee motivator when you're already 20 episodes deep to go something a bit new. This is cool. And I was really happy with that show as a whole. I thought the talent absolutely aced it that night. Considering that I think only one person on that show had been in a cage match before, BT Gunn, that was it. Everybody else had never done one. And I thought they all done fantastic. So
Definitely, man. I thought it was a great show. Plus, it's my favourite type of steel cage that looks like that. Looks like the big blue one. Obviously, it's black, but that's my favourite kind of style. I think it looks so cool, so 90s, and it just looks fun.
Looks amazing, but I mean, the wrestlers hate it.
I know, I love it, but
remember the first time we got it? It was Wolfgang and BT Gunn, and that was the big thing. Like, oh my god, it's the pure 90s style, like hard cage. And then I think BT Gunn hit it the first time and just went, oh, this is horrible because it doesn't move. I mean, this thing is solid. And it's like, when it came that day, we had to lift it in to the asylum, and even moving the thing was horrible. It's freezing cold. It just feels rotten. It's horrible, but I mean, it looks amazing. But everybody gets that wee buzz when you see it, and then you get in it. And I think they all kind of go, this is quite sore, this one actually. It's you're chicken wire fence, you know what I mean? But I love it. It's brilliant.
Like realising why they changed it to the other cage, like, I get it now.
Totally, it's not like monstrosity, but to be honest, in the way ICW is, I would hate to have the wire cage. I think it has to be for this type of show we put on and the type of cage matches we have. I think it has to be that big, grisly, horrible looking cage to kind of fit the mood.
Definitely, it does. It just fits the ICW kind of like the style of it so much better than if you had this big silver shiny cage. It just wouldn't look right. That's how I always. We was like, how are they going to do like the cage match? I was like, are they going to change it? Because I know you have different ones before, and then it was that, and I was like, oh, I like it, pretty cool. So, how have you found being like during COVID? Try to book wrestling shows during COVID. Is it awkward? You're kind of just there, and there's like nobody at all, and it's like
it's been weird because we've never had to do anything like it. We did go in quite blind about the way that we go to deal with COVID protocols, about certain people being like a certain amount of people being in the building at a time and bubbles and all that stuff. That was a lot to get our head through. Thankfully, there's a team of us. There's me, there's Dallas, there's Andy. There's a whole team of people. So collectively, we all worked it. But it's not been as like I don't know. Let's say it was natural, but it's took a bit more work to think about. Okay, we get these people in at this time. How do we get 4 weeks of TV out of them at this time? And like I say, it's been a learning curve and it's been cool and it's forced us to kind of think outside the box with certain talent about right how do we utilise the best in this. You know, how to change the show up by doing bars and stuff like that. So it's been weird. The talent have been very, very receptive to it. I will say the first day that everybody had was rough. No for like the fact that they were bad, but everybody's went right. I've not wrestled in 6 months. There's nobody here. I'm doing 3 matches, and I will say we take the Lionheart League matches on the first weekend. So we take, say it was 6 months ago, we take 18 matches over the course of that weekend just for the Lionheart League. That was on one day actually, Saturday. So everybody in those matches, it was like, right, you've got time, like, go for it. And I think everybody's first time you seen them come out, they all kind of went, nobody here. Like, the music's playing, the ring's there, but there's nobody here. But I think most people, first couple of minutes, was just a bit kind of feeling out, and then they were back into it. I think the biggest shocker for anybody was like Shah Samuels, because everybody else had been off for 6 months. He'd get hurt in December, so he'd been off for 10 months. He literally had not been in a ring in 10 months, and I phoned him to come up to the Lionheart League. So it was like, okay, you're 10 months late and you're going for a shift here. And I mean, to his credit, he nailed it. I mean, he was on fire that weekend. But he was in anticipation. He knew he wanted to do good. He came in with just all the energy in the world, and he's brilliant, and he showed it that night. But for the most people, it's just been this weird learning curve of, for us getting used to booking it, and everybody's now getting the hang of stuff being filmed at a sync, and you're filming this for week 2 and you're filming this for week 1 and blah blah blah. So it's been weird for everybody, but I think it will feel weird now when we go back to a normal show, because it'll be like we're just running a show and that's it. They'll be like, all right, that was easy, to be honest. But I'm looking forward to it though. Yeah.
I think when obviously people can come back, it's going to be such an awkward thing, because you'll be like, oh shit, this is like, there's people here, and like we can like just do this. It's weird. But I always remember at the start it was like WWE, and there was obviously nobody in the audience crowd, whatever you saw, in the arena, wherever they were, in the performance centre. That's what I was trying to say. And the like Randy Orton, I think it was coming out, and he was like pointing to the crowd and stuff. And you're like, why? There's nobody there. But it's like, obviously you're trying to get used to it. If you've done it for as long as like people like that, like 20 years and stuff, you're just going to be like, I normally like point at the crowd. I normally talk to somebody. What do I do?
Well, that was a weird thing actually. Like, so for a lot of people, it was, especially like your younger ones, like your Alex Parkers, Logan Smith, Emily Hayden. They've never worked in front of anybody. They've maybe worked in front of a small crowd somewhere, but they've never worked in front of nobody. But that's been a very big benefit of it for me, is a lot of the people on the show have worked our shows. They know how to work cameras, they know the way we run things for episodes. A lot of them don't, the newer folk. So it's been a case of, okay, we can get you on TV, we can get you kind of integrated into the roster and get people knowing who you are for the episode. But we can also get them learning, there's your hard cam, there's your 2 ringside cameras, here's how to work to the camera. So they're kind of getting an education in that style of filming that they wouldn't have necessarily got just at the garage. Because for a lot of them, it would have been maybe one garage booking and then nothing else for another couple of months. Whereas now it's like, okay, you've got all this time to learn this stuff. So by the time we're back in front of a live crowd, they'll have it. They'll know everything. They'll know where the cameras are, how to work with things, and that's very beneficial, I think, for a lot of folk who've never done it before. So hopefully, when everybody's back, they'll be so used to doing it in front of nobody. When the crowd's there, it'll be so much cooler.
I know the guys that I've been speaking to are like, we've learnt that kind of whole, like, how to work the cameras and stuff like that. Like we've kind of just had like this whole educational experience instead of from having people there and try to learn it. Like, without being able to be like, okay, this is what you should be doing here. But they've got that experience, which is going to be really good when stuff comes back. That's the one thing as well. The one time I ever went to the garage is it's either a place that you go to that is good, or you'll get kicked out straight away. I've never been able to get in, and I've just because of that, I've never went to an ICW show in a garage, which I want to rectify when the stuff is done. I normally sit in the box, like the bar across the road, having pints till it's done, and then like Because for some reason never get in. Like I can go just totally sober. When I was younger, I never used to drink a lot, and I would go because my mates were in there, and they were like, "No, you're too drunk." And I'm like, "I've literally just came out the house. Like I stay there. I've just came out." And they're like, "Nah, well, alright, whatever." But I've been to like the ICW stuff at the Hydro, the O2 Academy, and this kind of stuff. But I've never been to the garage, and it looks so cool. And I'm like, just my misconceptions of these people don't like me in there. So I'm like, I can't go, but I need to rectify that because it does seem like a really cool kind of show. So when obviously people come back and stuff like that, is that where you are going to kind of, I don't know if you're allowed to say, film the stuff for the network, or are you still going to?
I mean, honestly, I don't know, really. So the way it is, we're just going off the guidelines of the government of what we can and can't do. So obviously things are lifting as of like today. But we're trying not to get too ahead of ourselves. I know last year, in about November, they announced that things would start to ease up. And a lot of companies started announcing show dates and blah blah blah. And we didn't. We were like, let's just hang fire just in case. Because the whole year has been like that, so let's just jump the gun. Sure enough, nothing changed. But we've kind of just been hanging fire on a lot of stuff and hoping for the best. But when we come back, it's all down to like, how many people can be in the building, do they need to be socially distanced, can they stand? So a lot of stuff will get taken into consideration as we go forward. But I'm sure over the next year you'll see things constantly changing with the show in regards to fans being there and what they can do and stuff like that. But I at the minute your guess is as good as mine right now, to be honest. So we know we're just filming in the asylum, and that's all that just now.
I'm just waiting till obviously we don't need to be social distance and stuff at a show, because I was meant to be going to WrestleMania Royal Rumble this year, but obviously COVID has kind of just kicked that out for everything. But then I'm like, when ICW comes back, I want to come to the show because I've had quite a lot of guys on there. I want to go support them, and then I'm like, but I don't want to be like social distance because you're not going to get that right feel because it's going to be awkward and stuff. So I'm just going to wait till everybody's able to, till COVID goes away.
One thing I will say, whether they allow 1,000 people in a venue for us or they allow 100 people in, the moment that we can base something, plans will be put in motion for us to base something, because we've known anybody for a year. See, if 100 fans are in, I'll take 100 fans cheering all day long. If it's 50, I'll take 50. At this point, just give us somebody, because I think people want to get out and about, but for us, we just want to. I want their talent to have a crowd in front of them. They've worked hard all year. Taking for them to get back in front of people and get reactions, and people got used to seeing these people on the network now. People who don't necessarily didn't know before October, say. So let's give all these folk a chance to get out in front of a crowd and go, all right, let's see how the reactions are, and who's, are you getting that reaction we hope you're getting to people at home? Are you getting that in the live crowd? And it'll be cool for us as well. But whether it's 100, 1,000, 100, I don't care. Just give me a crowd, man, please.
just empty somebody, 2, 3 people. But I think it'll be funny, like for people that maybe have been to, like, oh, I'm going to be this good guy or this bad guy, and then the crowd comes and they cheer them, and they'll be like, what did I do? Am I meant to go with this or no? Which you kind of need that. That's what wrestling is. It's a crowd sport. You need the crowd there, otherwise. I was going to say otherwise it's terrible. It's no terrible. It's just awkward to try and work. It's like with foot having. It's like being at those small independent shows like the ICW one in Maryhill. It was like 4 people, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. There's nobody there. You don't know if something's working if there's like 4 people, because the majority they're always going to cheer because it's really intimidating. There's 4 people there. Somebody's in the ring like cutting a promo, staring at you and pointing. You're like, all right, calm down. I'll just cheer for you. But no, I think it'll be cool when things get back to normal. Like we can start seeing shows better. I think the ICW shows on the network with the crowd there is going to be insane as well, because the crowd's mental, and it'll be really, really fun to see that.
It was weird though, because like I remember we knew when we initially kind of moved things over, because like there was the big music change. We changed everybody's music, and everybody knew why that was, but we couldn't say it because of it on the network. But that night, I wish we could have told people this is for the network, because that ended up being the first Fight Club episode that they actually put on the network. So I wish we could have told folk like this is the first one for it, because people would instantly be louder that night. They would intentionally be rowdier, because they want to show, like Glasgow always is at wrestling shows, they want to show that Glasgow crowds are loud. So that night they would have been on form, like they would have been causing it all night. So I'm sure when the first crowd comes back, I'm sure everybody who comes will be on top form that night. Be it drunk or sober, they'll be causing it. Which will be brilliant.
100%, man. I think it's going to be so fun to see like the crowds come back, especially because it's on Peacock. The Americans might have no experience like what a Glasgow crowd at a wrestling show is, especially a few beers in, getting to that main event.
Yeah.
Starts to get a lot more rowdy, shouting and stuff like that. And I think it's just going to be insane. It'll be cool to give like a Scottish wrestling experience to the world, which will be fun.
Aye.
So, flipping it to the positive side, I forgot to ask, what's something that you love about today's wrestling world thing?
I mean, the fact that Drew is like the dad is pretty cool. That was amazing. It's probably the thing that's kind of hooked me most for the whole year is watching Drew, because we were sitting, was it right before lockdown, I think, because we were still in the office at the time, and Andy, Rudo Lightning, we were sitting and we just went, this is insane, but like if Drew wins that belt at Mania, he's won wrestling. Like, really think about it, that guy has won professional wrestling. He's reached the top of the mountain, and then of course he did. And it's been cool to not just watch that, but then watch him be on tap and fight these people in these big pay-per-views and the feud with Randy Orton and all that stuff. It's been very, very motivating to see that. And people often go, oh, but Drew's this big 6'9", built like a god guy, and I'm going, I know, but he wasn't always. Drew was another wee guy from Scotland who had a dream to be a professional wrestler, and he done it, and he became the dad in professional wrestling. Like, that's, whether he's from Scotland or France or anywhere in the world, he done that. That's cool, and so I think it's motivating for like when you see people on their shows that are these young up and comers, and you go, it's no sign that there was a possibility that you could do something one day. That's been cool. I've enjoyed NXT. That's been a cool thing. Just in general, I like watching it. NXT UK has been pretty cool as well, because I've got a lot of people in that who I'm like really close mates with. So again, getting to see them day stuff is brilliant. But it's been weird because we've not really been asked, so I've no missed wrestling.